This project this year will give the students' point of view. So the university of CY is part, thank you, is part of the Utopia Alliance, an association, an association of more than 10 European universities. Each year, Utopia supports the creation of about 3 or 4 connected learning communities. So it is not artificial intelligence, but it is a project which is more close to the projects we have heard yesterday, and perhaps of what we projects of teaching and so on. You will speak afterwards. So 3 or 4 connected learning communities. These are joint courses, projects between several universities. The call is open. The call is open to all disciplines. It depends on the interests and on the connections of the teachers to submit an application. And we have 3 or 4 also in CY, so computer science or linguistics. There you can see the cosmos of the collecos of the connected learning community. So there is legal history in the middle and a little bit. You can see it, and then citizenship, managing migration, design and science, in everything you can create such a connected learning community. So in 2020, with a colleague of the University of Brussels, Brigitte, we have applied and we got the creation of a connected learning community on legal history. Gradually, new universities have joined our alliance, and currently 6 universities are collaborating with this project. So you see, it is Brussels, CY Cergy, Warwick, University of Ljubljana, our colleagues, Nova of Lisbon, and Universidad Pompeu Fabra from Barcelona. Each year, we try to find a common theme that is interesting from the perspective of each participating member and of each university. Each partner must be able to approach the topic from a specific national point of view. And this year, we choose labor migration in legal history. This was our common theme for 2022-23. In this project, we do not want to organize joint courses in the classical sense. So we had to find a common program that would give each participant a lot of freedom. Then we had to coordinate our different curricula and the university calendars of each participant, which is quite complicated when you consider that some universities have semesters, some other trimesters, some begin the courses in September, some other in October, and so on. So this is a little bit the theme, some pictures. And then it is just the question of getting the students' attention. Considering that this project is not part of our curricula, students participate on a voluntary basis. So the work involved in the project is, I hope, interesting, but it is an additional workload for the students. The aim of our courses, the method of the course is different from the usual curriculum. We propose a topic, we give a bibliography, and then the students have to develop their own project. The idea is that the students propose a topic within the framework of the general subject, and the teacher supervises the work. So all in all, it is a bottom-up project, and the teachers are more mentors in this work. The aim is also to bring together students from different universities, as we saw yesterday from the project of Melanie, and to encourage them to share the projects and to work together. So we don't organize exams. Then, to start the experiment, this is the next one, please. To start the experiment, we organized in September on Teams a lecture and an interview with an expert. And this week it was the professor Cristina Bastos. You know her? Cristina Bastos from Lisbon, from the University of Lisbon, I mean, who is an anthropologist. And she spoke about across empires plantation labor in the aftermath of abolition. Then each professor starts teaching in his own university according to the availability of the students. In order to bring students together, we organize joint meetings on Teams about twice a month. And finally, there is a joint face-to-face meeting of our students who takes 3 days, about 3 days. This is the peak event, the so-called peak event in March. And this year, the University of Ljubljana was so kind to host us for 3 days at Ljubljana from the 9th to the 12th of March. Can we go on? So this is a picture of the students. This is the French team on right, and the Ljubljana team I in the left. Can you go on, please? So here you see some an example of some topics of our students. So the Moroccan immigration from the 20th century until today, this is Ines' subject, and about Italian labor migration to others, to other groups of the French group, French delegation. Vision about the Belgian Council of State. Migration law in Belgian history, and novel about Portuguese migration to America. Then the University of Warwick. These are examples because the University of Warwick had 5 students and Ljubljana 7 students, so 7 projects. But this is some examples: migration of Slovenes in the Atlantic harbors, and the symphonic orchestra members from Trieste to Ljubljana. So these are the project the students proposed and worked on. Then we have also a social aspect of this project. We visited the town of Trieste this year. So this is the monument of Maria Theresia and the whole group in front of it in Italy, because Trieste was very important port for the migration from Slovenes and Italians to America. Then the next one, please, is the next Ines Mustak here. She can speak, and I will say only 2 things afterwards. Please, yes.
Hello, everyone. My name is Ines Mustak, and I studied here this year to do my master's degree in international law. So I'm here today to assist my professor this morning to her presentation and to especially talk about the student view with Ethiopia. As she already explained the purpose and what they represent, I will be here to present to you of the view of the students by talking about my experience and also my colleagues. To begin with, it was an option that was presented to us by my professor the first day in this university. She presented what they had done last year, and it directly drew my attention, even though I didn't want especially an option to do, and I didn't have the desire to take one. But I didn't regret my decision because I want to be here today. Also because labor immigration was a topic that was connected to a few of my courses. And also because it was something special and not just another course that you follow throughout the year. As students, we could choose what we wanted to develop in our project and what our subject would be in the spirit, of course, of labor immigration. Personally, I chose a subject that would be interesting both personally because of my origin, but also something that would be the roots of immigration in France and also relevant to my studies. So I chose to work on the Moroccan immigration in France from the 20th century until today. It was a pleasure for me to work on. It was a pleasure for me to work, educate myself on the matter chronologically, and after a few hours with my professor and my colleagues, I knew approximately what my project would look like. We worked on our own. It was a project that we could do in our own time, so we really liked that. Our professor asked a few times about the progress of the project, but we chose independently when and how we wanted to work on it. So it was with a few deadline, of course, but it was the best for us students because we also had lots of work with our studies on our own. So for the project, we could ask also the help of our professor if wanted, especially with resources. But thanks to her, we had the opportunity to have access to the archives of the Immigration Museum that allow us to have access to photos and documents linked to our project. So the meeting in real life was really special. We had the opportunity to learn about the methods of work of the other students and the other universities. And we also had the chance to be with some professors during this weekend. So they shared their knowledge about the work of their students, but also others' work, because, for example, Professor Dante from the University of Brussels, he talked to me about after my presentation about how labor immigration, Moroccan immigration in France was really similar to the Moroccan immigrants in Belgium. We also had the opportunity to, during the trip, to visit Ljubljana. So it was both academically and personally pleasant. Talking with my colleagues, we all came to the same idea about Ethiopia. It was a great experience, not only because we had the opportunity to have a break from the studies, but also that because it's a way for us to learn about new ways and new subjects from the other students' perspective. Personally, I also did an Erasmus last year, so it was a great way for me to compare the two of them. So personally, I felt like on the one hand we have Erasmus, that is a great way to learn about a new city with new people and a new language. And on the other hand, I felt like Utopia was a good way to learn as a student because we learn from others and that the work that they have done themselves, that they use and they use the resources that they had their own way. So it was a great way for the students in us to learn. And thank you.
Thank you. About the outcome of this, the students make a blog about the experience and afterward an online exhibition. And this is the next fish. This is the online exhibition of last year. So the program is mirror, and you can, if you click to every one of these cards, you see a document or an interview or something like that connected to the subject of last year. This year will be the same, but it is not yet finished. So thank you
very much. Now we have a special guest star that arrived yesterday, especially coming from the United States, which is Pat. And Professor Patrick asked me to do a short presentation on seals, very short, and then we'll keep on with the program. My pleasure having you here. You have the floor.
Thank you, Vasco. Crazy place, now. It's always a pleasure to see the ELPIS group and come back to France. It's although it's difficult to get here this time for me. I wanted to speak first about seals. But we've had a couple of people from this group who have had to decline invitations to speak at various panels at the SEALS conference for good reasons, like they've been elevated in their position in life and things like that. So I'm here to solicit your help and invite you to come to SEALS in Florida. SEALS stands for the Southeastern Association of Law Schools, and it is frequently called Sybaritic because it's so luxurious. At the Boca Raton resort, which is right out of the movies of the 1930s. It's opulent, and you can come for a few days or more if you like. We are in particular interested, or you can participate by Zoom. We have special permission to do this. So we lost a couple of all-star speakers who were going to speak on here we are.
We like
Sorry. On July 27th, we're going to have some good colleagues speaking on war crimes and humanitarian law today. We have collaborated on this together with people in this room to great success. We've lost a couple of our speakers because of their wonderful opportunities in their fields that have prevented them from coming. The other is humanitarian law today is dramatically important for these reasons. Also dramatically important for similar reasons, there is another panel the same day speaking on democracy worldwide in the face of populism. That covers the world. I mean, that's quite a topic. So if you're interested, please let me know. We'll love to get you going. If you can't come to Florida, we can get Zoom to come to you. And at the clock, we go via from Ljubljana, no, from Lithuania. Reminded me that the 8 o'clock panel on that Thursday morning is 1 o'clock in the morning in Lithuania. I said, we'll Zoom it, we'll record it, we'll do anything to get you to come.
Lena doesn't sleep.
Wonderful. So anyway, those are the two panels that would be the most interesting, and they are quite dynamic. The other invitation to you, of course, is to return to the new La Nouvelle Orleans. Many of you in this room have accepted our invitations to New Orleans to come and visit my university, Loyola Law Faculty, and Bosco Bert Friedrich Arndt. Is it a good place?
Wonderful.
Especially at the Voodoo, which we'll take you to the Voodoo place. Anyway, Arndt was just there recently, but we love to show our hospitality and show off our French roots. So if you can come for that, I think Gerhard may be the next person to be like that. But anyway, those are two quick invitations. I hope that was fast enough.
Yeah.
Love to collaborate, and Melanie and with many of our other projects across the ocean a lot in various ways. So thank you.
So now we are to the second part. It's a kind of à la Française session. All the books are divided in part 1 and part 2. This part was for the presentations. Now we are going to talk about artificial intelligence. And as you know, our Congress, and this conference in particular, has been a success. And I looked at the French press in order to see how we were seen by everyone. And that's what I bring to you today. I found Le Point, which of this week, which is special to artificial intelligence. I bring you Beaux-Arts, special number of this year's review that talks about artificial intelligence. And to end, I bring you Cahiers de Philosophie that also talk about artificial intelligence. So you can see how important we are. We are in the main press affairs. And looking at the articles of this free press media, we can see what they are dealing with the problem. In my paper, I wrote to Bern, and it's published in Automatisierte Systeme, a book that was coordinated, and it was published in back. I say there are three main positions towards artificial intelligence. We have euphoria, saying everything will be solved, everything will be great. We have the pessimism and skepticism. Wow, this is lousy, it's going to destroy humanity and all kind of things. And then we have a rational position, say, well, it has advantages and disadvantages. Let's see how it works. And I try to look at this from the point of view of the law. Well, if I compare these three reviews, I think they oscillate, they balance between the euphoric idea, they think it's great, especially Beaux-Arts, say it's an opportunity for the arts, and is really optimistic about the topic. These two are more balanced, but balanced in a kind of realistic way, not skeptic. So perhaps the only thing that was needed was a skeptical review, but I could not find. But probably I'll look at the bookshops and the libraries and shops in the airport in order to see if I can find something. And if you look at the interior, this one tries to do a complete description of the influences of artificial intelligence, from work to education, medicine, geopolitics, and the conclusion is rien ne sera plus comme avant. Nothing will be like it is now, like it was before. It's a new changes we are dealing with. And I select two matters they deal with. The matter of education. And they say that education is something that is going to be completely changed by artificial intelligence. And what they say in their optimistic view is that a professor cannot avoid to use ChatGPT and other things like that. And the important thing he should do is use it in a proper way and try to ameliorate the artificial intelligence. That he should do in the lectures, kind of exercise with the students in order to prepare artificial intelligence to the law and to the field that he's teaching in. So it's a practical and optimistic approach that means that artificial intelligence will be in universities every day. And then they talk about the lawyers and the influence of lawyers. And that is the only pessimistic part of the report. Because they say that lots of activities of the lawyers will be no longer needed. And begin with the notaries. My father would be disappointed because he was a notary. And it talks about other things in the end that the sentence can be produced in an artificial way. So there is a small place for lawyers. And say lawyers must be very smart and must be like psychologists. They are supposed to deal with the people that appears in the office and try to solve psychological problems. A kind of a change, a drift in the lawyer professor. It's not very optimistic. Well, then we have Beaux-Arts. And Beaux-Arts is really enthusiastic. What you see in the front page, it's a work from a robot that to whom it was asked, please paint something that looks like Bosch, but can be normal and something of today. And that was the result. Well, I can see some resemblances with Bosch, but I do prefer the original works, and I'm not so excited as the guys from Beaux-Arts. But they have other experience. For this, here we have the girl with the pearl ring. I also prefer the original, of course. But, well, it's a nice try they are doing. And this is also Bosch. It's, well, a kind of satiric introduction to Bosch that, from my point of view, is not a great thing for the art. But apart from that, it was something very strange that I find here, and seems that how and that looks like artificial intelligence can be seen in a different way. Our problem as lawyers nowadays, what we discuss every time, is the influence of ChatGPT and how it can influence the assessment and the way we should act in order to avoid this kind of thing. So we see it from the point of view of assessment in a strange way and under a pessimistic point of view. Mozart is enthusiastic. They say the best way to find if a painting is real or it is fake is artificial intelligence. And that creates new possibilities for art research, because they can see exactly what was painting before, the three levels that are in the painting, and they can see if it was the real painter or not. And they say that's something very important for the art history and for every other thing. And then one of the applications of this new method was a painting that everybody thought it was from Vermeer, but now we discover that someone from his atelier, it's the girl that is playing and an instrument, and now everybody says, well, that's fake. That's what was not it. Well, from the point of view of history of art, it was not a great achievement, but it did something to the investigation, to the research. Last but not least, philosophy. I used to buy quite a lot. It's very interesting, short articles and very well-written articles from the point of view of philosophic approach. And they dedicate some pages to the problems of war. And there are two things here that I found really interesting. First is the question, is the computer law subject? Can we have rights? Can we have duties? What do you say? And they introduce the idea of the distinction between a man and a machine and compare it with the animals. And they say that in the beginning we thought that was different between animals and people was that people should be intelligent and intelligence should be the difference. But nowadays we discover of environment, we begin to say, well, intelligence is no longer necessary. We have to do with the emotions. Yeah, because animals have emotions, nature have emotions, and the computers, do they have emotions or not? There's a great discussion in this knowledge. But if they have not, and none of them have emotions, in the near future, everybody says they will have emotions. So if they have emotions, why not having duties? Why not working as a legal persons in the world of war? It's a kind of traumatic conclusion. From my point of view, or my approach to the war, I say that the difference, that war is not a natural thing, it's cultural. And if it's cultural, it has to do with men. And I'm not in favor of this kind of advantage. But it will be a topic that we have to discuss in the future. And then about our law classes, it says exactly the same, that we cannot avoid artificial intelligence, and we need to work with it. And they say that the maximum that a professor, a law professor or any other professor should do is to oblige the students to say that they have used artificial intelligence in the work they've done. The student does a quotation now, but in the future do a quotation for something that he got from ChatGPT or any other of these tools, and has to put it in the work and say this page was taken from ChatGPT, or say everything was taken from ChatGPT, and is the professor that has to do the classification. And at the same time, they say it's a duty of all professors to provide more information and help these kind of instruments to become better and better. So this was the result of my research in the press this week. All these magazines appear this week, and you can find them in the magazines, in the airport, wherever you want. It's a good read for all of you, and I think that was a good, we are in France, a good amuse-bouche for the things that we are having now, the excellent conferences of our good friends. And I give the floor without UA. I already talked too much to our good friend Bernd Opperman, my antecessor in this task of running and coordinating the Erasmus project. It's a pleasure having you here as always, and please, you have the floor.
Thank you, Baxter. It's an honor, of course, and I just made some few remarks for this subject. We published books about these matters, but they are all in German, in that before I dare to present.
My article is in English.
I dare to present them to you. That's not so important. Basically, I have the opinion to these things. I studied physics, by the way, but I have the opinion to these things that the invention of the wheel does not change the law as such. It's two different words. And even more, as I was a kid, you see, I come from a small village. Some days they have driven the geese through the village, and in other days they have driven the cows, and in other the pigs. So there's always something new, and we need to react to it on the way. And my answer would be a moderate yes. That there might be some influence on law learning, law teaching, to bring some order in what's the presentation? Thank you. The next one, please. Thank you. There's to bring some order in my just notes, my loose notes, is that I like to give my 10 minutes are not enough to review the whole subject, but to give an idea of the legal frame for digital technology, first of all. And then there is even a strategy, at least a European strategy on artificial intelligence. Even we have some national ideas about that, but that would go too far. We do have already so-called law robots in legal advisory services. If you go to the internet, you will find them easily. But this is no real artificial intelligence. It's some lower level. We also talk about law robots in producing the law. And of course, there is a basic problem in how far such machines are capable of substituting the legal rule as such, and what we do in law specifically. I mean, not circumscribe the things, what artificial machines may do, but to substitute the law. There is a little confusion as well. It's a big subject. My dear friend Vasco is right. I found immediately I found the homepage of the UNESCO. They are always good for what is driven every day through the village. And so on artificial intelligence, and they say it has the potential to address some of the biggest challenges in education today, innovate teaching and learning practices, and accelerate progress towards SDG 4, whatever it is. However, rapid technological developments inevitably bring multiple risks and challenges which have so far outpaced policy debates and regulatory frameworks, and so on and so on and so on. It's easy to find. You got the citation where you find it. The next page, please. That's the UNESCO page. There is a citation if you want to look for it. They have hundreds of subpages and even full presentations, 50 pages on PowerPoint. But if you go into it, you'll find well, what I could call, sorry, it's German maybe, no substance whatsoever. But it's interesting to go through and read a little bit about the relationship between AI and teaching, teaching at Dutch university and other levels. But for me, it was not too interesting. It's just a good start, maybe the framework. There is already some legal framework, and I'm of course private lawyer, so I'm concerned with the law. And there's some legal framework already, a few regulations, the so-called DSA regulation in Europe, 2022-2065, for services on the single market, digital services on the single market. And it's not in our subject immediately, but it's the brain. And although the DMA, more important in my view, the Digital Markets Act 2020, 1828. Also, there is a lot of, there are many decisions under European competition law, Article 101 following, especially Article 102, for these huge providers like Google, and, Apple, and others, and to bring some order into these kind of digital markets. Also, we have, of course, national law dealing with these digital markets. This next one is not too important. Maybe it's a closer description about the DMA. In the United States, by the way, there are some initiatives. I did some research on it, but not far enough to mention it here. Maybe please the next one. There is a new proposal which is mentioned at many sources. It's the regulation on artificial intelligence, done very promising, of course, done by the European Commission, but it's of course not finalized, the whole thing, the whole procedure. It has an interesting approach. It wants to ensure that artificial intelligence systems placed on the European Union market respect the fundamental rights of individuals, further aims to ensure legal certainty and facilitate the development of a single market for safe and trustworthy artificial intelligence applications. So very unique and promising, but not finished so far. It's not, to my knowledge, at least I've checked it a few days before. It's still no regulation. It's just still in discussion at the Parliament. There they have the idea of that proposal. It's a risk-based approach. There are such AI systems with minimal risks, with limited risks, with high risks, and unacceptable risks. Of course, the latter are prohibited, and the high risk one, they have more duties for such market members to bring these new. Please, next. Bring these new approaches to the public side. So that's the idea, basically. But I would say it's of course a public law way of dealing with things, defining specific risks and adhering to these kind of. Nevertheless, a very promising thing, and already seen so far. I mean, I must say that thing is so important, digital markets and artificial intelligence especially, it should be a part of our curriculum, and it should be a part of legal teaching and legal learning. The next piece, it goes even further. No, that there are some more proposals. Just to mention that there is one. That Artificial Intelligence Act, or the next one from 2022, also a proposal for a directive on liability for defective products. It's the well-known, of course, product liability directive, we know all, and it should be adjusted to the specific risks of artificial intelligence accompanying that AI strategy with the proposal. Then also new, there is a proposal for a directive again, adapting non-contractual liability, civil liability rules to artificial intelligence, so-called AI liability directive. It must be a directive, of course, because that's the sole competence of the member states to have this kind of civil liability that's not in the hands of the European Union. Nevertheless, on a single market, this has to be harmonized. Well, that's the reason why, on my view, of course, as a private lawyer, a very consequential and very important thing, which gives strength for the whole stuff. So it's just next thing, next slide, please. Next slide is something else. That's the present state of art concerning, let's say, some elements of artificial intelligence for machine-assisted debt collection by legal service providers, especially. See, if you go to these platforms for flight claims to the of consumers, especially for just a few €100, if you would come to a lawyer, to an attorney for such a claim, he would throw you out again because it's totally uninteresting to do such. But these platforms, they collect the claims, and so there is, of course, specific possibility of enforcement of consumer claims. But for our subject, it's not that interesting, I would say. It sounds very good, law, robots, and legal advisory. That's just basically, these are assignment models or related legal models which collect consumer claims. Very important thing in my eyes, although that sometimes they take these undertakings, sometimes take 30%, sometimes 50%, try to cheat the other side again. But nevertheless, consumers should have no possibility. These platforms are not a thing. It makes some sense to have them. Also something to deal with and related to artificial intelligence. We come closer to my subject concerning law robots producing the law. That's more interesting, of course. And there we have the so-called smart law and smart contracts, even sometimes such contracts which are connected to artificial intelligence and to possibilities, to new possibilities to stabilize these kind of documents. I don't want to go into the technical details now. But this is possible already, and it brings us also closer to the subject that such artificial intelligence elements should be part of the education for our students, of course, because it's state of art. And although I wouldn't call that artificial intelligence, nevertheless, it's closely related. One further, please. The law theorem. The crucial question in my eyes is, of course, that one, whether it is possible to substitute the process of lawmaking by the machines, by artificial intelligence. Well, that's the crucial thing. To automate the way of making the law. And it doesn't exist so far in my eyes, because all the programs who give the prognosis, the outcome of specific legal problems, like the on specific platforms, they circumscribe what we are doing. they circumscribe the legal process with statistics. For example, to bring a funny association, maybe whether the judge has had a good breakfast or not, the outcome statistically of his decision might be different. And in that way, it's circumscribed what legal entities are doing. But they don't do it, these machines don't do it by themselves. They don't substitute that application process of the law, what our students are learning, what lawyers are learning, to realize legal decision as such. That means, in my opinion, if the term law were merely used to denote an operational quantity that rather characterizes a cognitively open living process that through the operationality of its actors, who are admittedly thereby valorized, constantly reconstitutes its subject matter and itself, that is able, thank you, to withstand feedback from the judiciary. Whether this process should be left to an artificial intelligence, question again. I mean, law is not just the application of something as mere legal positivists would think. If we have such an act, to leave that to an artificial intelligence depends on, now I come to Washko again, whether an AI can produce artificial, not artificial things, but artistically something like a picture. AIs can produce a poem, for example. That's what we do in the law. Sorry to say so, but in my view, it's what Kant describes as aesthetics, what we do in the law, not what we do in natural sciences. So if an artificial intelligence is open to do that, it might be able to substitute the judge and the law professor. But before they are able, and they are presently not, we cannot really that this is substituting. It's not so sensational at the end. So conclusion, if I may have the next page, conclusion that it's of course, as we saw, and we do that already, supervision, regulation, and non-interference in respect of AI on digital markets are the alternatives. And of course, there is already supervision by the European Court of Justice Commission and also by the national lawmakers through that very process. The question is, of course, I was in discussion with some undertakers, Hanover briefly, and they said, well, if you do too much in that respect, we don't support innovation anymore. So so we need to use these instruments carefully. Again, a reason why to concern our students with these matters. In any case, so we would recommend to integrate such problems into the curriculum, but doubtful in conclusion whether AI will substitute next period of time so these judges or even law professors. I would be happy about it. You see, my natural intelligence is decreasing by age. It's wonderful to have artificial intelligence. I see that when I use the car and my navigation. As I was young, I could do that myself. And nowadays I rely on this navigation. So it helps. So thank you very much for my listening.
Well, it was very interesting and very food for our thoughts. It was one intent, which is great. And now I give the floor to Melanie, our American friend, that is going to do this presentation and show us their views.
Boy, yesterday, Elvie and I passed around real quick the Global Classroom Project. Those people that were interested, there's a list, but we can't find it. So if it's somewhere around, oh, you have it.
I have it.
Oh. Now we figured out the culprit.
Yeah.
Okay. No, if you could pass,
Yeah.
pass it, that'd be great. Nightstand. Can everybody hear?
Yeah.
Yeah. All right. Artificial intelligence. So, we can go to the next slide, see our friends there. Yay. Okay, so we are now almost at the transhuman age, right? We've skipped a couple historical perspectives. Before this, we had the age of the knowledge worker, right? So knowledge was key. Accountants, doctors, lawyers, we were hired for our knowledge. No longer, right? Because now with artificial intelligence, we have to figure out what makes us different. So what I want you to do is ask your neighbor, like talk to your neighbor for, I'll give you about a minute, and decide what are the qualities that humans have that ChatGPT and other AI do not possess. And I'll give you a minute. Talk to your neighbor.
We're like a long drive for last night. Yeah. What have you done today? I'm actually in our Department of Criminal Justice.
Even if you can construct something, and there's already a film on it.
Yes.
Yeah.
It's now done. The body.
What Bill's dressing? I know. God knows what the department's here. Tom Lumpers had explain, I'm not an expert at all on artificial intelligence. For Melody's buddy. Just much harder time doing it. And while there's still probability. Data, like large language models. Billion. Assign probabilistic values. We're not associations. Look up variations across the probabilities.
Okay, find out, what do we got? What makes humans different than AI? What do we have that AI doesn't have?
AI says it doesn't.
Probably creativity and empathy are the most.
Creativity and empathy.
And this also means that we can really come up with new things, whereas artificial intelligence usually works based on what is already there, because it really works with probabilities. And this is why there is a certain tendency of mainstreaming. And for us, probably it's probably, if we are conscious of that, it's probably much easier, or it would be something unique to us that can really try to be you. How much of that?
Yeah, good. What else? Pat.
ChatGPT says that. We asked if it had
Virtue.
What do you think?
Did they,
No, they said, yeah.
you have to get virtue?
No, artificial intelligence itself does not possess virtue in the same way that humans do.
Nice.
But it gives about 3 paragraphs.
Wow. We were talking about love and sense of humor. Love and sense of humor.
What you
What
just said.
else?
Well, I say that artificial intelligence works always in a framework of data. They can use a lot of data, but human beings, it's not only data. I mean, we have feelings, we have sentiments, we have the possibility of to see a landscape and feel something that artificial intelligence cannot feel. We have unconscious thinking that artificial intelligence cannot.
Sometimes.
But
Somewhat.
in my case, a lot. And then we have a more broad possibilities to create. We are more creative, even if they have more data. We are more free. We are free. They are not free.
We are spontaneous.
We are spontaneous.
That's right. That's right.
And it's last possible if we can make sense. But this is also a part of this is a part of feelings and we can eat. We can do a lot of things that cannot be experimented by artificial intelligence. They can use data about sex, about eating, about a good cuisine, about feelings when you see a coast and you see the mountains, but they cannot feel it. That is important.
That's true. They can't eat yet, or at least enjoy the food like we can. So, okay, so I'm hearing a lot: creativity, empathy, conscience, happiness. Okay. Right.
Suffering.
Feel the suffering. Yes. So I think that's important because if you look at what we're facing, ChatGPT is basically, I've been talking to some of my former students that are practicing. They're using ChatGPT to basically write their legal documents. ChatGPT, we just have to embrace it, kind of like what Bernd said. It's certainly here to stay, but I think what we need to do is distinguish ourselves from AI, right? Do we have a presentation? Back on real quick. So I think that's what we have to look at, the fact that we have to focus with our students in thinking, how can we, first of all, embrace AI to create a quality of life, better life for us, but we also have to think what we can bring to our clients that ChatGPT does not. So that's kind of where I'm kind of landing here. What I see now one more. What I see now in law school, what we're doing is we are teaching our students. This is kind of like the one-page summary if I had to sum up 3 years of law school of what we do. We're trying to teach them essentially critical thinking skills. So in the first year in particular, we get them to understand how to do research, how to write the motion, and most of the classes is all about this thinking like a lawyer, whatever that means, right? Picking out issues, stating the rules, and then applying that to particular facts. But I think we're going to need to expand what we think we're supposed to teach them. You can go one more, because it's very clear. One more, please. It's very clear that lawyering is a high concept, high touch profession. We are here, bottom line, to assist our clients, to help our clients in their time of need. And I think that we have to stress that with our students to remind them of the mission and the noble profession that we're in. So what I'm thinking is we need to focus not only on how to embrace ChatGPT, embrace AI tools in the profession, we also need to teach them emotional intelligence, because that's what makes us different from AI. And emotional intelligence is simply this. We have to, as humans, recognize, understand, and manage our own emotions. And through that, we then will be able to recognize, understand, and influence the emotions of others that we come into contact with. Because as much as ChatGPT can write emotions, they can't give their client a hug. They can't connect and make them feel comfortable when they're, under stressful conditions. So there are 3 pillars to emotional intelligence. And what I've noticed with students is law school is very stressful. And I don't think it's just a US problem. I think students, except for in Finland, somehow. I mean, they're stressed, they've got anxiety. So I think it's a twofold solution by talking about emotional intelligence, because they'll be happier and feel fulfilled in the legal profession, and they'll be able to offer something that AI won't, because they'll be able to connect with others. And guess what? In the law, we don't talk about emotions, but I think this is really important. So here we go. 3 pillars to emotional intelligence. Number 1, self-awareness. Okay, so we're human. We have thoughts. We have emotions that are felt in the body. And we also have body sensations associated with those emotions. You're stressed, heart starts beating fast, right? And we also, humans are very visual. We have images, and we're constantly bombarded with thoughts. So it's important for our students and for us to be self-aware. I'm shocked at the amount of law students sometimes that are very disconnected from their bodies. They use their bodies simply to move their mind from one classroom to the next. So I think it's important for them to start to realize that there's more to themselves than just their brain. So I'm starting to think that I'm going to actually do some sort of short centering exercise when we start class to get them connected, reconnected, to become self-aware. Again, something AI doesn't have. So what we're going to do, okay, we go mindfulness, right? So mindfulness is kind of like the hot thing right now. You can keep going down. Yeah, very, very depressing. Depression, anxiety, binge drinking. I could go on and all the problems with law school, but we'll skip that for now. So we gotta go. Okay. And then there's mindfulness, is if we start to get them to identify and pay attention in the present moment, then that self-awareness can then transition into being aware of others. Okay, so mindfulness, if you go one more, there's so many positive outcomes to being present in the moment. And mindfulness has been shown, now there's so many studies, and law is like one of the last professions to actually embrace mindfulness, is to actually, you'll see health, it improves stress, anxiety, depression. You can listen more intently, so we can teach our students how to focus and to develop and improve their relationships. And then in turn, you're going to find that they're going to be happier in law school and more content. Okay, so we're running out of time, so let's keep going down. One more. What are we? Do you associate yourself more as mindful or mindful? For law professors and administrators, which one are you? Mindful. Oh, the one with the nothing? No thoughts, or the one with lots of thoughts? Less possible for. Nice. How do you get that? How do you get there? Meditation. Look at that.
A lot of meditation, and I try to make students meditate in the classroom in 300 students.
How does it work? It works. Do they like
Some
it?
laugh and I'm not able to, but some are very happy and come at the end and say, I never experienced it like this in my life. Usually they have no idea what meditation is. Never experienced in their life meditation. And so I try to make them move their bodies and then calm down.
Did you notice a difference? Like afterwards?
And the relation is completely different. They are smiling to me, they are so kind of me. Change very much the relationship.
Yeah. Anybody else like Maureen? And do you have any do some meditation in class? What do you think? Sir?
Talk them about the statics, learn about the statics, and they need to be prepared.
Is anybody hesitant to do that? You have a little hesitation? No? Okay.
Can I say something?
Yes.
Well, I think about this kind of a new methodology that you are explaining. I think there are a lot of prejudices, but I also believe that because of many students have a lot of psychological problems, we recently also developed a way to have different kind of assistance. For example, a nurse we didn't have before. For example, one day, one of my students fainted, and nobody did anything because there were no ways. So we have to bring him to her to the clinic. This is something it is very dangerous. So, for example, now we do have nursing, psychiatric, and psychologists. But I also believe, for example, new ways like acupuncture or other, it should be available for the students to improve their well-being, to study in better conditions.
Yes,
More effective.
I totally agree.
There are also an economic place that I think is not the topic here, but it's also affecting psychological fun.
Yes. And the bottom line is we want to teach them skills, but we also want to focus on their overall well-being, because I think if they feel better themselves, they're going to be better advocates for their clients. So,
And the pleasure to learn also. I try to that pleasure to be there, pleasure to learn, not just passive and waiting for going out.
exactly.
Yeah, no,
Right. All right. So,
Sorry to interrupt, Melanie, but our boss says we have a schedule.
yes. You know what? Schedule. We're on schedule. Yes.
Could you read quick?
Yep.
Yes, there's a difference.
I think we all know lawyers, very successful lawyers, though, who are clearly sociopaths. They have learned, they've learned appropriate behavior, especially if they do, trial work, which I think is one area that machines will have a great deal of difficulty with, especially talking to a jury
Yes.
or to a judicial panel. So do you think, since these machines are basically just mimetic, they're copying or learning to copy human behavior, could you run a machine against a social worker curriculum that's got those checklists they use for counseling and have it pretend to be caring about someone?
I don't think we're at that stage yet. I think they have robots. I mean, they even have robot concierge at some hotels. But do I get the same experience talking to a robot that's telling me about where to go for a restaurant, or the human interaction with an actual concierge? Yeah. And I think that's what we have to focus on with our students, is I think we have to get them together thinking, like, what can we offer that AI can't? And AI can go through the checklist, but we need to develop more their emotional intelligence skills, because they want to compete in the future. They're going to have to learn how to connect with others. And until they're self-aware and able to emotionally regulate themselves, they're not going to be able to connect with others. And I think, unfortunately, law is one of the last. We're one of the last to embrace meditation and mindfulness. So I think starting this conversation is incredibly important in the world of AI, because we have to start thinking, how are we going to compete against, ChatGPT? And I think this is, as uncomfortable as we sometimes are in the legal profession to talk about emotions, I think it's important, and I think this is a great way to spark that kind of conversation. I'll stop.
Well, Melanie, thank you.
Thank you very much, Melanie. It was really great. And we tried a classroom here, and it was a great experience. So I have to be very briefly, because we have still some things to do afterwards. I'll give the floor now to Francisco Valgueta. Short.
Yeah, of course. It's two parts. Thank you for the invitation. Two parts. The first is related to Ben.
to you because it's related to changes in constitutional and juridical culture. If you remember, the French constitutionalism established the idea that through the law, the force law, developed by a German scholar at the end of the 19th century, we can establish through. The through is the reason, and the reason is universal, it's general for everybody. So the law is a process to establish the truth. That changed with German constitutionalism. This is more approach. This is like American constitutionalism in the sense that we have not only a statute law, but we have case law. In case law, you need argumentation. As Kelsen said, you have not established a unique interpretation because there is not unique interpretation. So they were a cultural development of the idea of pluralism in philosophy, the no rhetoric, the theory of argumentation. That means that you have several possibilities to establish a solution for a case, and not only a possibility because change the mentality. And you need also emotional intelligence. Let me say it in the sense that you have to, you need to get the consensus. You need to get the approbation of the people that will be support, or that will be that will have the consequences of the decision in court. So that changes with the algorithm. The algorithm is a mathematical process, and then in terms of juridical culture, is a return to the terms of French constitutionalism based in the idea of truth. How we establish the truth. We establish the truth with the algorithm to mathematical process, and then there is not the possibility of argumentation. There's the possibility of get consensus, because consensus is impossible. You have the truth with the algorithm. So that is a very good problem for the constitution of pluralism. And then we have here also a problem for democracy, because algorithm is in certain senses is creating the field of the pluralist democracy, in the sense that the pluralist democracy needs not only a solution for the case, but also participation. That is the formal side of the pluralist democracy. We have also other guarantees, the constitutional courts, because even the formal size could be mistaken, and then we have constitutional court. But we have this part that is occupied now by the algorithms. We have, in that sense, in terms of juridical culture, a big problem between let's see, a big problem in the sense of the algorithm, mathematical process that could intervene in the creation of law, that could intervene in the application of law, and that is against the idea of pluralist constitution and pluralism. That is the first part, the integration with the intervention of Melanie. The second part is with ChatGPT, because if you remember in our meeting, I something about algorithm, use of algorithm in education and in law education. If you remember, I said that through the algorithm, we can establish psychological profile of the student, and we can establish also the way of improve learning because of the psychological profile. So this is a good, perhaps, solution for implementing and improving education. But with ChatGPT, we have a lot of problems, and it is a lot of noise in that moment. The three journals that Vasco wrote, this is here. a lot of noise in relation with ChatGPT. That particularly I've seen is that not only the noise is not only produced by academics or scholars like in other fields, but it's produced also by the creators of the ChatGPT. So the creators of ChatGPT are warning everybody that will be the end of the world. So it's something very peculiar. You create something, a new application, and you run to the people that that new application will be the end of the world. It's nonsense. Well, the sense perhaps is that there are a lot of interest, economic interest in the question. I mean, there are big tech that are interested in the weekend ChatGPT because they have other application, and now I suppose that for Facebook, it's not a good idea to use ChatGPT instead of Facebook application, Instagram, and other. But now it's a lot of people using ChatGPT. That means the publicity market will go to ChatGPT and not to Facebook. The Facebook had 98% of incomes from publicity market. So it's important for Facebook and other big tech to fight ChatGPT. Other perhaps could be from the same creator because the same creator make noise to promote regulation because they want to control regulation. And they don't want specific regulation, but they want a regulation that will promote a monopoly for the big tech that are that created ChatGPT and other similar. So I don't think that this is a good debate, a good discussion. For me, it's not it's nonsense to produce a pause in the development of ChatGPT or other application. It's to have a moratorium is nonsense because we cannot stop the technological development. We can control but not stop. And also because we have China, and I am sure that China will not accept a moratorium, and we can stop our development and leave all the possibilities to China. So I am not in favor of a moratorium, and I am in favor of regulating and control. And here, this is the problem is that in fact we don't have at the moment development of artificial intelligence that we could say that artificial intelligence provoke problems. Artificial intelligence is only a tool, and the problem is not by AI. The problem is by the people who use AI. This is I can remember last week in New York Times, it was news about lawyer that used ChatGPT to switch against a company, Avianca, a flight company, and all the text, all the demand was created by ChatGPT. But the problem is, I commented to you the first day. The problem is that ChatGPT want to avoid the control by two teams and anti-plagiarism program. So what they're doing in ChatGPT? What it's doing is change everything, even the bibliographical references and even the text of the sentences. So when that lawyer wrote to the court, all the sentences, all the cases were fakes. For ChatGPT changes everything. Because this is the way to avoid, and if you have at the moment papers, you can control if papers are created by ChatGPT only to looking for the bibliographical references or the text from the sentences, because it changes everything. So I think it's a good idea, but let's just say that the people, students or lawyer or whatever people was using, or artists, I have to say I am using ChatGPT for prepare that paper or for that demand or for making that painting. And that is, at the moment, that is perhaps enough, but in the future, that is a big problem. We need regulation, because the problem is those cases that are in that actually will be in that moment, and because of the use of revising will be detected. If not, if they are not detected, the problem is will remain in the future, and perhaps other lawyer, even not using ChatGPT, will quote it that cases that are fake. So we have a big problem about disinformation. It's not only the fake news that we know until now. This is a problem that we can grow in the academia, in the university, in the juridical system. A lot of fakes, a lot of fake information. And that is a problem for the future. So we need regulation. I am not against artificial intelligence, but I am for very strict regulation of artificial intelligence.
Much, Paco, it was really interesting as always. And I'm there to recommend not his last book, but one before that was called The Algorithm Constitution. I recommend all of you the reading. Today we present afterwards the one from Constitutional Law in Spain, but please read the Algorithm Constitution. That is great, and it's for the time and the support these problems we talk about. So last but not least, we have our friend Arne Tunneke to do a short presentation. You had a long and a short version. Perhaps the short one would be the next rate now, because we are in shorter time. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you very much for giving me the floor still, and I guess it's not the best part for me now to take, because we are short in time, and yesterday was Erst Vaschko, so my presentation was probably a bit longer than the 15 minutes, rather 18, so he said it's okay, but now it's not okay. So I need to try to be fast, so could you go 2 slides back, please? I try to make it quick. So no time for presentation. It's more time to quick run through the topic. So then skip the first things. Let's go on with this now. Here I just had some outline about what I'm going to present. The topic is pretty wide. I guess you can understand me, right? I don't need a microphone.
No.
Pretty wide topic: artificial intelligence, future of law, learning, teaching, and researching. So quick outline, starting with the current state of art. We already mentioned this ChatGPT, and then I'm going to focus on 3 areas: learning, teaching, and research. And in all of these areas, I'm going to present some opportunities, risks, and challenges, and then come to the end. And for me, this artificial intelligence will, in some kind of, revolutionize the whole education system. But how and why, I'll try to explain. We can make this part of the ChatGPT pretty short, I guess. How does it work? I don't know if any of you or all of you ever worked with this. So you type some question, you type some text. The ChatGPT analyzes what you were asking, generates via the use of an algorithm an answer. He gives you the answer, and then you are able to proceed with more detailed and more specific questions. So it's that's why it's called chat. It develops like in a normal conversation. I was asking ChatGPT, like Pat did with the task Melanie was given. I was also asking the ChatGPT about my task. So how can ChatGPT be used in university application? The answer was the following: just keep it short. I can automatically answer to your questions. I could create exercises for you, support you in writing, and create some virtual tutorials for you. This was the answer, a bit more detailedly explained, but of course, this is also an example how to use ChatGPT to get some access, to get some ideas to work with. So kind of brainstorming effect for developing your own tasks. But of course, ChatGPT till now also has its limitations. First of all, you need to be intelligent with the question you're posing. Because the more exact the question, the more exact the answer. If you pose a very general question, the answer would not satisfy you. Then till now, only data available till 2021. So if you ask any up-to-date question, what happened yesterday? What was the reason why President Trump fell down? ChatGPT will know. And that was also the point Paco already mentioned, it independently creates some information and sources. For example, with the sources, he referred to the cases. I would like to refer to some sources I found in diploma thesis or wherever. The author exists, the legal journal exists, but the text, the article does not exist. So this is some limitation till now, which is a very big shortcoming and danger still of the ChatGPT. The other thing, if you ask for some arguments, pro and cons, it cannot balance. It cannot weigh the arguments. It randomly puts them together, but not in a logical order. So this, again, is some deficiency till now. And till now, as far as I'm informed, it's only text-based. So you cannot video, talk with it, whatever, but probably that's just the next step to develop. Now, coming to the 3 points, what I was asked about artificial intelligence in learning, teaching, and research. First of all, starting with the opportunities for learning. So that's the student perspective. First of all, cool for the students, they have a 24 tutor. Now, always available for myself when I need somebody, not as the teacher who might answer my email 2 weeks later. And then it could create some personally tailored learning plan and also some practical exercises to make it easier for me to catch the subject, to understand. It's kind of a personally learning plan, a personal curriculum for the students with all kinds of details and questions to check it. Because this cannot be provided by us teachers in the classroom. Then all kind of information which is needed for the students to learn, go to the library, it could shorten the library, it could recommend certain reading sources, it could even extract some information from the sources and help them help you to learn it as a student and also give you some feedback on your learning outcomes at the end. Did you understand it correctly or not? This develops in artificial intelligence conversations like in the chat. Then, very good point what artificial intelligence does for the students. Hey, they are not obliged to read long text anymore. They just ask for a summary. Please give me a short outline of case A, B, C. This makes life easier for the students. They don't need to read these lots of works on their own. And of course, it also assists in researching, writing tasks, same as presentations or any kind of homeworks. Yes. These are the opportunities for the students, but we know from all times in the life, no risk, no fun. There was the fun part, but there's also some risks and challenges for the students. First of all, the difficulty to distinguish between true information and fake. How do they do it? This is a big risk because when you're just starting, you don't have any clue. You rely on this technical support. Then that's the point Melanie mentioned, critical thinking and problem-solving skills of the students, which we are trying to teach them. If they only rely on this information given by artificial intelligence, these skills are lacking. Simplifying answers, they are satisfied with it. You don't need to use your brain. It's like a big full-time Google. Because students ask for some information, they don't have any idea how to research for them, to search for them on their own. They satisfy their belief. This is one of the big dangers I see, that information is simplified and certain skills are not developed. And what does it lead to? When everything is so easy, I just Google anything. I don't need to know it myself. I'm getting lazy. I don't need to investigate myself. I don't need to find a conclusion myself. Don't need to find any solution. It's given to me. That's why at the end, first of all, it amplifies becoming lazy, and then, knowledge is missing, and you're satisfied with anything because it's so easy to reach. Like Adam and Eve with the apple on the tree. Pretty easy to pick. Now let's come to the teachers. Also, starting with the opportunities. For us law teachers, it would be, I guess, a great asset that it helps us to create, first of all, the overall structure of the curricula and the course content. You ask, I would like to make a lecture about consumer law within the European Union. Please give me a certain structure. This could be easily given, even some more detailed description of the course content, and even more detailed, it could provide you with some assistance in creating more single classes, some exercises, some case to take, some practical problems, some quizzes. That's something we don't need to design on our own. It could be done by the artificial intelligence, just as an assistance. This is the opportunity section still. And then when it comes to examine the students, why should we be the ones to design our exams? Let's try artificial intelligence and check if it suits our needs. So again, a personal assistant in creating exams. And when we are lazy, even the grading. If we do multiple choice stuff, why should we check it on our own? This could be easily done by the artificial intelligence. And yesterday, Melanie in the restaurant told me that one of her colleagues designed an exam by ChatGPT, and ChatGPT was the perfect person to grade it, because when it was designed by this artificial intelligence, it's also easy for them to grade. This especially refers to written assignments. And also, it might help us to grade personally tailored materials for the students, because everybody knows not all students are on the same level. Some need more care, some need more help. This could be done by having certain student profiles and assisting, giving assistance by this artificial intelligence to give them specific tasks to develop themselves further. And also take into account us teachers. It also helps us to develop further. How? Because we could check with the help of the artificial intelligence, how good are we as a teacher? How could we improve our performance? How are we in the competition with the others? This is also a source for help to improve ourselves. But again, no risk, no fun. Risks for the law teaching are that we could also become too reliant on these sources, that we become lazy. Also, legal education, we are all lawyers, matters of copyright, plagiarism issues. When we just rely on the information coming in by artificial intelligence, it's not ours. So this is something we need to be aware of. Also, I talked about personally tailored tasks for the students. For that, the artificial intelligence needs to have information about the students. Again, problem, data protection. How can this artificial intelligence deal with sensitive data of the students? Maybe, hey, you can't ask this hard question because this guy has psychological problems. So this is another danger. And then when it comes to evaluate some assessments from the students, how to figure out what was done, what was produced in the student mind, what was produced on the computer. And another thing which is dangerous, as far as I see, when we use this artificial intelligence as the teachers, we also need to be aware of what artificial intelligence can provide us. We also need to be aware about of the limitations of artificial intelligence and its capabilities. So we need to be well informed using it, not just like Googling around and say, okay, it's available, take it. The challenges for us in legal teaching are, I would say, that we somehow need to adapt our teaching style, our way of teaching in terms of first creating up-to-date course content and checking it for the quality. As I said before, we can use this artificial intelligence as an assistant, but it's not an assistant we can rely on. We always need to check the quality of its input. Also, the challenge is to make students aware of when they use artificial intelligence that they cannot rely on it. We need to give them certain techniques to verify the information, because especially the freshmen, they don't know about it. They are happy when they find it, but they need to know how to evaluate, how to critically see and verify this information being given by artificial intelligence. Also, we need to update the expectations for how to grade the students. What do we expect from them in terms of skills and learning outcomes? This is something they need to know because they need to fulfill our expectations, and I guess this will change. If it comes to written assignments, the grading criteria, I guess, needs to be adjusted. Because when some text generated by artificial intelligence, certain things cannot be as fluently written as from the human mind. In terms of correctness, relevance, and the methodologically plausibility of the content. These are some criteria, I guess, in the future we need more focus. We need to more focus on when it comes to these assignments. And I guess we also need to try to create different assignments for the students with more focus. Time limit probably. With more focus on different skills, problem-solving skills, these creative skills we try to get from the students. So how could we do it? Either the old-fashioned way, lock them in the classroom, let them write their exams with no access to the outside world, so artificial intelligence is out. Or oral examinations, if it comes to something written, ask them if they really understood what they wrote or what somebody else wrote for them. So this, I guess, is a challenge for the teaching. And no, that's not the end, sorry. Research, try to make it short. The opportunities, I guess, are pretty obvious. First of all, trying to find topic on what to do research on. Artificial intelligence could show you some areas where it's worth to some research. Then it helps you to do the research in this specifically subject-related area, and might also make it easier for you not to read all the text being available, but relying on certain outlines, summaries of long, challenging texts. When you had the pleasure or you're in the process of writing, you finish something, artificial intelligence can help you to find the mistakes, either typing mistakes, grammar mistakes, because this is something I always see. If I remember my first doctoral thesis, I don't know how many people read it for correction. When it was printed, I opened the first page, shit. There was the mistakes. This could be done by the artificial intelligence, and also if we are some person not in the writing style, it can help us to improve the style. But of course, also here we've got the risks. First, no reliability. How can we rely that the summaries being given really contain the most important parts, and that the references are reliable? That was the point Paco again emphasized, very critical. Again, danger of copy and plagiarism issues. Then what Melanie did with her exercise inside the classroom, there are certain things artificial intelligence cannot provide. Some subject knowledge in terms of feelings we perceive in certain situations, innovative ideas, conclusions, opinions, this is difficult to replace. And a bit pessimistic view, when artificial intelligence can help us to create legal texts, hey, will be sooner or later all of the same standard. Some standard formulations, some standard background. How can you detect good writing? Is it really still worth it or not? I guess the standard will become more and more the same at the end. Just 3 slides, then I'm done. Future perspectives for the students, tool for the students 24/7, tutor, help, tailored learning. This is something I guess everybody was dreaming of when we had our own studies. There's less need to be in contact with the teachers, so classroom time is limited. But of course, the danger of being a consumer of information instead of being active yourself, investigating, doing some research and stuff. So this is lacking in our skills you will learn as the students. And pessimistic outcome, the students would not just say goodbye to their teachers, but become lazy, widening their comfort zone, and also that's also very human-like. Open door to cheat. Why shouldn't I try to use this artificial intelligence for my own works? Study to be outside in sunny France. So this is the pessimistic thing, the future perspectives for us teachers. I guess we cannot do without artificial intelligence in the future because the advantages are clear. It helps us to have less work, especially in preparation of our classes. And we can always stay up to date with the developments, and we can focus on creative and problem-solving issues for our students. Less work in preparation for anything, but more need to check the quality of the input given by the artificial intelligence. And the harder thing is to find new assessment criteria, because it will be much harder to evaluate what was really done by the student, what was done by the artificial intelligence. And now my vision of how legal education would look like in future. One famous German once said, if you have visions, go to the doctor. I'm not going to the doctor, I'm just sharing my vision with you, and then I'm done, and maybe a case for a doctor, I don't know. My vision is future legal education will be split into two parts. First part will be the online. So you as a teacher will deliver the content for your seminars, for your lectures, for your classes by feeding this artificial intelligence with your own knowledge, either from the courses. So for example, if we would be in the future here, this would be recorded and the artificial intelligence knows exactly what this guy here in front is talking, teaching. This could be delivered again in the form of an application to the students. Not just the oral things, but also the written things. If you wrote some textbooks, if you made some articles, if you have some scripts or whatever, this could be all read and used by the artificial intelligence. So my vision is that every teacher would be an avatar in future in an application. The students attend the course and you will appear there, give the oral information, give it in written form or even in a video as the students like. It's not just ABBA performing live on the stage, not being at the same age anymore. It will be the same with us teachers, I'm pretty sure. But still, they don't need us. We're not becoming unnecessary, because the second part will still be in the classroom. In the classroom, the teacher is needed to work as a moderator, to solve the cases, to do the case studies with the students, and then especially focus on the things Melanie mentioned, this emotional intelligence. Because this is something artificial intelligence cannot provide, cannot teach, and this is something why we teachers still have our position inside the classroom, but reduced to interaction with the students, but the delivery of knowledge, I guess, would be more and more become part of modern technology of the artificial intelligence. My intelligence is over now. Thank you for listening. And,
thank you very much, my dear. As usual, you are bright, brilliant, provocative, and short. So thank you very much. Now we have a break of just 5 minutes, not more, and then we have the presentation of the book of Martin. I see that our professors are already.